Hey everybody, wanted to do one of the educational videos that I had talked about last evening in the video. I'm sure you can see that I have a couple things going on. First, I have body memories going on. I didn't really notice them. They didn't hurt or sting or anything. I didn't actually feel them open. I didn't even notice until probably a couple hours later that they had opened, and I had taken a shower earlier and they weren't there. So I hope that doesn't trigger anybody. Just understand that these did not traumatize me like the ones on my arm did. The second thing is I think I'm coming down with laryngitis. I don't feel sick. I don't have a fever. I'm not achy. Besides doing all of that stuff, got everything back in order, how the office is going to be. To my left is an accent wall of just all white, and that's where a lot of the other educational videos are going to be filmed. But for tonight, the thing I wanted to talk to you about was why cooperation is in one of the steps. If you remember, there are 5 steps. The first 3 can go in any order. It's communication, reassurance, and understanding. When you have those 3 in place, then you can move down to the last 2, and the last 2 have to go in that order: structure and cooperation. Now, the first 4 seem logical as to why they are steps, but to a few people there was a little confusion as to why cooperation was listed as the last step. Even though going through those first 5 steps, the side effect does evolve into cooperation. However, cooperation in itself takes practice, because even once you get through the first 4 steps, once you get to that last step, cooperation, you still have to work on it. It's not something that is just a byproduct. It's not something that can just be thought of as something that happens. It's not something that will just happen. There's a lot of times when cooperation itself doesn't happen for many years because structure has not taken place. So once you reach structure, that is when everybody has to start coming together and working together, and that in itself can be very difficult. For instance, when I was working on cooperation and had just finished the structure part where I set up the rules, and they were following the rules, sometimes they would be out and they would forget that I had an appointment, or I needed to be somewhere, or I hadn't slept, along those lines. So they had to cooperate with my schedule, and I had to cooperate with their needs. So it was a mutual effect, a mutual coming together of minds, where we had the communication, we had the understanding, we had the structure, but we didn't have the cooperation. I don't know if any of this is making sense. Because you can have structure and not have cooperation. For instance, if they decide to throw fits, if they decide that it's just simply not something that they want to do, and although that would sound like that would fall under structure, I guess structure and cooperation would be, that's why they're listed as the four that cannot be changed. You can't have cooperation without structure. You can't have structure without cooperation. So I can understand why those two would go hand in hand, and why those two would fall underneath the line, and why the first three can go in any order. But let's say, for instance, okay, a good scenario would be when you're at work. For those of you who are able to work, there's structure at work. There's a lot of rules, and you have people that you have to work with, and sometimes they're not easy to work with. Not at all. But there is structure within the embodiment of the corporation, and there's structure within each individual department. For instance, mine. There are set rules, and for the most part, everybody follows those rules. And my boss is a very good boss. He's fair but strict. And he sets up these rules, or AKA structure, for everyone to follow. Now, even though that structure is set in place, not everybody cooperates with him. Not everybody, even though they understand the structure, even though they know it's there, even though the structure has been set in place, they may not necessarily want to cooperate with the system. So they can choose whether they work with the structure or they work against the structure. And structure, I think, needs to be explained a little bit. Structure is just setting up of rules. It is setting up a certain way that things need to be. Setting up rules, setting up organization, setting up definite game plans. Okay? You can have all the structure you want set up and in place, but unless you have the cooperation of the people in your system, those two things are just going to completely collapse, and you're just going to be right back to the first three steps. And that's why cooperation is listed as one of the steps, because it is a very vital step. Once you have all of those 5 steps put into place, the organization and the development and the evolution of the system itself is streamlined. It develops into something of its own embodiment. They're happier because there's finally less chaos and more reasoning. There's more logic to their existence. There's less survival mode and just enjoyment of life. When they have those things set in place, they create their own harmony. So yes, cooperation is a very, 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 very valuable and very important thing. I do hope that this explained it in a lot more detail. If not, please, by all means, message me, comment, tell me what you thought was missing. On a side note, I'm going to be contacting one of the colleges here that I attend, the University of Memphis, and I'm going to try to volunteer there, and I'm hoping that I will be able to videotape it, which means I'll probably have to have Melissa help me, but that's okay. So we're going to try to we're going to try to make that happen for the psychology program. Because Melissa and I were researching this, and we discovered that there's not a lot of information that clinicians get when they're actually going through the educational process. So we are going to, I'm going to write a book on it, and I'm hoping that I might be able to get some help with, get some help from one of the professors to kind of co-write this. Very excited about it. We'll see how it goes. But again, if you have any questions, if there's anything that I had just explained that didn't quite make a lot of sense, please do not hesitate to contact me. I am more than happy to discuss this and make videos on any of the questions that you have. And I do appreciate you guys watching. I know the last few of these have been kind of lengthy, and I do appreciate you sticking to the end. I hope you guys are doing well. I have to go get my puppy now because she's barking outside. Good night.